California is going through a big breakdown. The people in charge are not managing things well, and it's hurting everyone. Governor Gavin Newsom flew in for a photo op, but he's part of the problem. He let water from Northern California rivers flow into the sea instead of saving it. That means Los Angeles didn't get the water it needed. He even bragged about destroying 4 dams on the Klamath River. Those dams gave electricity to 80,000 homes and helped with recreation, flood control, and irrigation. Now they're gone. California also has huge fire problem. Fires like the Paradise and Aspen fires burned millions of trees. The state used to have a strong logging industry, but it was shut down. Now forests aren't cleaned or managed. Loggers can't work, and dead trees are just left there to burn. Some leaders care more about bugs and birds than about people. Another issue is leadership. During fire season, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass went to Africa. People wondered why she left the city during an emergency. She went to see the president of Ghana get sworn in. But she has a duty to the people of LA and should have been there. At the same time, over 15,000 acres and 1,000 buildings were destroyed in a huge fire. No one even knows how many people are missing. Instead of fixing things, leaders blamed the wind and climate change. But the truth is, the fire could have been stopped, or at least made less severe. This isn't just about one fire. It's about poor leadership and bad policies. Fire chiefs have been more focused on hiring based on diversity than on skill. That's okay if everyone is qualified. But when 70% of hiring is not based on ability, that puts public safety at risk. In places like Pacific Palisades, one of the richest areas in the country, there wasn't even enough water pressure to fight the fire. If rich areas don't have water, then poorer areas definitely won't. Even insurance is a mess. Some people lost their homes and had no coverage. Insurance companies are pulling out of California. Why? Because the state makes it hard for them to operate and doesn't manage fire risks. This is not new. Last year was one of the wettest in history. There was tons of rain and snow. Rivers were overflowing, but California didn't build new storage systems. Instead, all that water flowed to the sea to protect a tiny fish called the Delta smelt. It's a full system failure. No water storage, no fire prevention, no forest management, no support for insurance, and hiring based on politics instead of skill. All these problems are made worse by government inaction. California has 40 million people, but its leaders want to go backward. They seem to want the state to return to the 1800s. Back then, people had no power, no fire protection, and not enough water. But no one tells today's people that's what's happening. The government is choosing not to develop energy, not to restart logging, and not to help homeowners. They are doing this on purpose. It's as if they want the state to fail. When Karen Bass returned from Africa, she had nothing to say about the fires. The city had even cut the fire department's budget by $18 million. She was asked about this at the airport and said nothing. This fire disaster was caused by a mix of bad water policies, no forest care, broken insurance system, and political hiring. Add in the natural weather, like dry conditions and strong winds. And it's no surprise that more fires are coming. Los Angeles wants to host the Olympics in 2028, but it can't even keep its people safe. There's not enough money or planning to solve these issues. Former President Donald Trump said he would fix the problem. He suggested putting someone in charge to oversee forest care, water use, and emergency services. But even he admits that a lot needs to change. Things like allowing more water to be stored, improving forest safety, fixing insurance laws, and hiring based on skill, not politics. Some people see this crisis as a chance to rebuild the city. They want to add more high-rise apartments, fast trains, and low-income housing. They talk about turning places like Pacific Palisades and Pasadena into little European-style villages with green spaces and dense housing. But with rising national debt and financial problems, leaders need to be careful. The U.S. owes $37 trillion and runs a $1.7 trillion yearly deficit. Every day we pay $3 billion just in interest. Trump caused a stir by mentioning Greenland. He said it was good that Greenland might become independent, and that maybe someday the U.S. could form a partnership, or even absorb it. That's a huge claim. Greenland is massive, has only 56,000 people, and is still connected to Denmark. Still, Trump thinks the U.S. should be friendly with Greenland to keep China and Russia out. The same idea applies to Panama. He said the U.S. doesn't need to control the Panama Canal, but we don't want China running it either. American companies are now stepping in to manage it. Trump wants a new strategy. Instead of using threats like big tariffs, he wants countries like Canada to fix unfair trade deals. Canada adds hidden fees, and that gives them a $50 billion trade surplus with the U.S. Meanwhile, we help pay for their defense. Trump says Canada should make things fair again. He's not saying we don't want trade, just that it needs to be equal. That way, America's working class doesn't lose out. On spending, Trump didn't create the debt. He inherited it, but now someone has to cut costs. He says he's open to ideas from both sides, but doing nothing is not an option. He's also been criticized for his approach to Ukraine. He tried to stop the war by pushing both Ukraine and Russia to agree to a ceasefire. So far, it hasn't worked, but he says one thing clearly. Russia didn't invade anyone when he was president. It happened under Obama, Biden, and Bush, not during his time. He believes the U.S. must lead the peace talks and that it can't allow endless war. So he's trying to create peace by pushing for a buffer zone, fair trade deals, and smart diplomacy. He wants American companies to work in Ukraine's mining zones to help rebuild. But for that to happen, Russia needs to be pushed back. He thinks it's possible and that a peace agreement could follow. Trump says the key is to keep things quiet. Don't make loud threats. Be calm, but firm. That's how you win trust and get deals done. One example is Canada. Instead of yelling, Trump says the U.S. should explain how unfair trade is hurting American workers. Canada has added small fees that most people don't even notice, but they add up. Fixing that could help both countries. On spending cuts, Trump says he's ready to hear ideas, but the country can't afford to keep borrowing forever. Just the interest payments are too high. He says if you have better ideas, share them. He also pointed out that President Zelensky of Ukraine doesn't always act like someone who depends on U.S. help. Trump says that while Zelensky is treated like a hero in Europe, it's the American conservative movement that holds real power over Ukraine's future. Zelensky needs to understand who actually supports him when it counts. Without the backing of U.S. conservatives, Ukraine's chances of long-term support weaken. This isn't just about public image, it's about survival. Zelensky came to the White House wearing a t-shirt and acted too casually. Trump says that's not how leaders act when they're asking for help, but he says Zelensky needs to understand that the U.S., especially conservative Americans, is the only real key to Ukraine's survival. Respect and presentation matter in diplomacy. It's important to show seriousness when asking for aid. Trump believes this behavior can affect how people view Ukraine's situation. Europe talks a big game but hasn't given Ukraine the help it promised. American liberals cheer for Zelensky but can't offer the kind of long-term support he needs. It's the conservative leaders who can actually help Ukraine. Speeches and applause don't stop wars or fund defense. Actions matter more than praise. Trump believes that real support comes from strong policies, not empty words. Trump says peace is still possible, but both sides have to be realistic. Ukraine won't join NATO anytime soon, and the U.S. won't fight a war to take back Crimea. So they need to agree on a boundary line and move forward. He believes that if they create a safe zone and let American companies invest, they could build a lasting peace. But the world must act wisely and quietly, not with threats, but with smart deals and steady leadership.